Hi, everyone. I want to welcome to another episode of Finding Healthy Love. I'm Bari Lyman, and I'm so excited today to have the privilege of sharing with you the story of Malka and Jeff. So Malka is a love story, and Jeff and I wanted to share that with you. And they were generous enough to jump on to share a few minutes with us. And we're in the middle of COVID, this pandemic where we're all kind of stuck home and everything is different. But one thing I could say is when you're stuck home in a pandemic and you're with your soulmate, it's a whole different ball game. And so Malka is a mom of 5 kids, and Jeff has 2 adult kids. And I wanted them to really share share their story with you. So hi guys, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having us.
Hi, Barry. Amazing. So I wanted to get started here. So you guys got married recently, huh?
Yes, on the 23rd of March. We were
Aw.
supposed to get married on the 26th of March, but in a nice medium-sized public wedding. But COVID had different plans, and so we got married in a nice, sweet little chuppah at a Chabad house under a tent in a pouring rain. It was really quite romantic and quite nicely suited for us.
Oh, that is so sweet. And Michael and I go to a lot of weddings, and we were all set to go to Malka and Jeff's wedding, and then COVID hit. And yeah, but most important is that you found each other and that you got married. That's beautiful. So let's start at the beginning. Malka, I wanted to ask you for our viewers, what originally had you come to me? Like, what was the what had you originally make the call to come to me? What was going on for you?
Yeah, so I was divorced, and after being divorced about a year or so, I really wanted to date, and I wanted to think about, what it would be to be in a relationship and to contemplate getting married. And because I was married for 17 years, and I have 5 children, and I really felt that even though I had worked on myself and I was in therapy and everything like that, I felt like I needed to kind of understand dating and relationships in a way that was maybe different than I had until then. And I saw, after going online to some of the online websites, that it was just a wild maze, and a maze, a crapshoot, the Wild West.
Right.
And it was really, and it was, and I just felt that I wanted to go into it with a sense of what I'm doing for myself, to understand what am I looking for? What, you always hear that second marriages don't work out, that, people come in with the same garbage as their first marriage. And I was scared, but I knew I wanted something else. I wasn't going to leave a marriage to live the rest of my life alone, or to go into another difficult relationship. And I wanted to be aware enough that I could be as open-eyed as possible. And so I had seen, I guess you had advertised, and I think I reached out to you, and we had set up a meeting, and we had spoke, and we had worked together. I had started doing the modules, and it was amazing. I felt like it gave me a vision and a grasp on what it meant. It wasn't just about going out and dating, but introducing me to the fact about how I had to kind of understand myself and get to know myself and date myself and be coachable, and how to kind of do a sort of internal process before going out there. And that really resonated with me.
Right. And so so it was quite a journey, right? It was quite a journey, right? Of clearing the past and opening yourself up to a new future with your soulmate. And one of the things we talk about in the program is how you want to feel in a relationship, right? Because some people go out and they look for, this checklist, and I want it to be a mensch, and I want this, and I want that. What did you discover about how you wanted to feel in your relationship and what that was going to look like?
Well, I tripped over myself left and right. I think people have the tendency to think like, oh, I know it all. I don't need, I don't need me to marry. I'm fine. I've got this. And I just met this great guy and I'm good to go.
Right.
And so you kind of go and do your own thing. And then you realize that maybe you need some support again. Right. And then I went back in, and I have this image of me sitting in the car after a singles event in Manhattan and calling you and like in tears and saying, Bari, I can't do this. I'm never gonna meet anybody. This is terrible. I'm done. I'm finished. And I always appreciated how you never promised, like you never said like, Malka, don't worry, he's out there. You said, Malka, you're caught in your, this is your inner work. And when you stop getting caught in your story about what that event meant and what it means and making a story out of it, then you can be, that's when you're going to meet somebody. And I kept trying and trying and trying, and I never stopped trying in terms of, and I got caught. But to answer your question about like, how did I want to feel? Well, I guess after being with people where it's like, I feel invisible, or I'm not really seen, or I'm turning myself into a pretzel in order to be in a relationship with someone, and realizing that that's like so awful. And for many people, it's even familiar.
Right.
And, so I think I was almost afraid to think that there would actually be somebody who could really meet my emotional needs. And my emotional needs are so vast or so ridiculous or so whatever. There's nobody in the world. So I might as well just turn myself into a pretzel for somebody.
Right.
But I did. He's laughing at me.
Right.
With you.
With me. Thank you.
Yeah. What was the, do you remember what the pivotal moment is? Like our program is, first we do the inner shifting, where you really discover vulnerability. Because often we carry baggage from the past, our childhoods, and then we recreate that. Right? So in our program, we break through, we learn to be vulnerable, we stop repelling love, we get future focused, and then we become an empowered dater. So do you remember what your pivotal moment was when you were doing some of these shifts and transforming? What was a big moment for you when you realized, oh, I got this, I can do this?
A pivotal moment. There's a lot of ups and downs, Bari. I don't know if I think there were times when, I think every time that I like went on a call, or when I was really good about participating, and I'm not saying this just to pump whatever people, listeners are out there, but having the reality check of constantly checking in with people and hearing you say where you're at is an automatic way to kind of get you back on track of if you're really fooling yourself, or if you're really like onto something that's real. And sometimes that's like a week by week kind of thing. I think after a breakup that I had with somebody, I realized that I had to, I couldn't create a partner. I had to find a partner, and that I just had to go out there with open eyes and go on dates and just show up with an eagerness and a willingness and see if that person matches that. And if not, let's go on. If I'm not sure, go out maybe one more time, and just have that willingness to go out and meet and not hold on to any story or person, and just keep trying. And I also really tried to, like, I had actually sent him a message on one of the Jewish dating sites like 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yep.
I remember getting it, and at the time, I made some very erroneous attributions. I thought to myself, oh, she's way too rich for me, way too snobby for me, and way too frum for me. And only at that time, 4 years ago, and only one of those attributions at that time was accurate. And it wasn't the rich or the snobby, because Malka is very, very self-effacing and very, very humble and very, very sweet. And thankfully, economically, we're pretty well matched. I had a lot of spiritual growth that I needed to rediscover in my life, and spent the next 4 years on that path. Not because of Malka, because I needed to do that.
Yeah.
And then our story picked up sort of at the end of last December.
Right. Right. So then somebody had sent me like a video, like someone was just another way to try to introduce people. And somebody had sent me a little video clip of Jeff talking about himself, and I reached out to him, and we spoke on the phone, and then
we were going to get together for coffee. It was a great phone conversation, by the way. It was at the end of December, and I was in
not this December, December before.
December 2018.
Yeah.
And I was really very, very intrigued with, I felt like Malka really got me. And then 2 days before we were going to meet for coffee, I got this text message from Malka that said, oh, for a really great reason, I can't meet with you. And so I'm like, oh my God, she's so cool that even when she breaks off a get together, she does it with class and poise. And I was so jealous of whoever it was she was going to be meeting. So anyway, the fact was, though, I really wasn't even ready at that point yet to appreciate what Malka brings to the table. And it wasn't until August of 2019 that both our lives slowed down to the point where we were able to finally meet in person. But as we reconnected, I made her promise that no matter what, she was going to show up, even if she got engaged the day before to somebody else. She had to keep that appointment. I didn't care. And it was really, at least as far as my experience goes, very, very moving moment when we finally met. I was blown out of the water.
Oh, and what was different about her from your previous experiences in your past life?
There was a certain quality and caliber of her neshama that was very tangible and palpable, and I felt like I was really standing in the presence of a tremendously powerful, gorgeous, intelligent, in touch human being that literally blew up my entire game book and playbook, and I was totally floored. And she's been blowing my life up ever since, and I couldn't be happier.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Malka is such a special neshama. Like, we knew she is just so loving and kind and generous and spiritual and deep. And we knew that, but she had to up-level her own belief in herself and separate from, fears and limitations that came from the past that we carry. And once she stood into her own, and her name is Malka, right? Like her own greatness, right?
Well, that point actually does not go unnoticed to me. In fact, every time I say her name, I am reminded of my place in the relationship. And very early on, we've established that Malka is my queen. We serve the same king, and I get to be her knight. And as romantic and as hokey as that may sound, it's been a paradigm that's worked very, very well for us. And it really plays to my strengths and her strengths. And it's really, it's really lovely. I mean, I don't mean to sound like saccharine-y. We have had, our occasional blip, but that just makes us more real. And at our core, we really are looking out for each other's backs. And I really feel like I found my soulmate. And I get the distinct impression that you feel the same way.
Yeah. I know, Barry, can you imagine? I mean, this is like, I mean, Jeff is like my best friend and my partner, and we work well together. And it just amazes me that like I kept going. I never got caught up in his story. Well, you know, if I'm meant to, I'm meant to. I mean, I really turned over every stone, and I sucked it up. I just kept sucking it up and reaching back out. And I think it was hard for me to, you know, like you go out with people and you feel like, oh, well, I should, you know, okay, fine. And it's like, I could hear it from you and others a zillion times about knowing your worth and then being open to somebody and then choosing to invite them in or not. But it was so clear to me that when I was with Jeff that I felt who I am. I felt I felt it was okay to be spiritual. I didn't feel I had to change my religious standards. I was worried that a lot of men said to me, you're too religious for me. You have too many kids. You're too this, you're too that. I even had an amazing, it was really interesting. Like 2 months before we met, a man had contacted me and he said, he had been on the dating sites and we had had conversations before, and he said to me, how do you think that you can have 5 kids, work, get married? How do you think do you really have a place in your life for a husband? Do you really, you know? And I said, and I think it was, when I said it, it was like, I felt like something coalesced in the universe. I said, you know, I really need somebody who's open-hearted, who wants to be my partner, and who wants to be with me on this journey. And I said it in a way to kind of say to this person, F you, you know,
right.
And I said, you know, if you need someone to just focus just on you, go get it, you know, yeah. I'm not her.
Right. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. No, what were you going to say?
Yeah, and it just amazes me, like how Jeff together, how we're with my kids, and how, I mean, like a week after we got married, it was Pesach, it was Seder night, Jeff and me and my kids, and just how like we are such a team, and how he loves my kids. And I'm not saying, and they're not, no one's easy, you know, this is not easy.
I get that.
Yes, but it's also important to point out that Malka's kids are, the youngest is 13 and the oldest is 24. So these are already, you know, pretty well-formed kids who are really, really lovely, very, very good kids. So, you know, it's not like, you know, they're really good kids. So, you know, they're religious. So it's a source of joy for me to be able to see that. And yeah, so, you know, I'm glad that your situation was is a good match for what I can bring to the table.
Oh, totally. And Jeff, you're so you guys are up to big things. Malka does animal behavioral therapy, right? Assisted animal therapy, and she's almost got her master's in social work. So she's someone who cares about people, about Yiddishkeit, about the planet, about making a difference. And you're a psychologist yourself. Right, so you're out there helping, making a difference. So
yes, when it works out like that, it's good.
Yeah, really, really good. And when someone is ready, I believe that when we're each ready and the stars align and we show up, then we meet our person, and we could totally see that here. And so, Jeff, so as a psychologist, like, what did you notice for yourself, like, you know, the before and after? Like, what did you notice about the dating scene and the challenges that are out there?
Well, I'm not actually sure if being a psychologist isn't just an excuse for me to be the way that I would be anyway.
Right.
But before, I was married for 25 years, and it took me a very, very, very long time to really realize that I needed to get out of my first marriage. And I figured there would be no point in getting divorced if I wasn't going to change and grow. And so I took the 4 years very, very seriously. And I liked what you said before about it's the Wild West out there, because it's just really very, it really is the Wild West. It's just so random, and we're so damaged from coming out of marriages, and you meet other people who are really suffering, and it in some ways, the 4 years of dating was actually might have been more draining emotionally than the 25-year marriage.
Right.
So I just kind of used each experience to try to learn something more about myself and to grow from it. And each little piece actually came together quite nicely to make a really good, get me really ready to be able to meet Malka and to, make it work, which has been very, very excellent.
No,
It's
that's
so wonderful. There is just nothing more wonderful than having this partnership, and being like hard earned, and how much we cherish each other, and that we really get each other. And I just feel so grateful. I feel grateful that that we have the kind of relationship that we do, and that I didn't give up.
right, because it's very much shared. Like, we learn in the program that that we deserve healthy love and partnership, that it's our birthright, but we really do need to have a real plan and clarity in order to make that happen. Just like how you're getting your master's in social work. You have steps and a curriculum, and you do your work, and you follow it, and you grow, and you learn. And that's what really I find that people need, to be clear, to be free of the past, to have a clear vision, and then step into that vision, right? And so when we are able to do that, I mean, life now with Jeff and your kids versus before, right?
I want to say one other thing that I think for me, as a religious woman living in the religious community, and all kinds of faith communities could could people could have this, which is that I think it's important to be willing to stand on your own and not need the approval of people around you to sanction or to approve. Because if you stand and wait for other people, even your own children, to approve, it's scary. It's scary in a way to know that people might be judging you, not approving of you, not liking who you're dating, thinking, having all kinds of thoughts, and at the end of the day, not even having any suggestions for you.
Right.
That you have to be willing to take yourself in hand and know who you are and know where you stand, and to go outside of that, because it's like you're doing it for yourself.
Right.
And if you wait for anybody or anything, I mean, everybody loves Jeff, and all my neighbors, everybody loves him, and they think he's great and wonderful. But none of these people would have ever put us together in a million years. And that's okay. But I needed to do that for myself, and even my kids, had question my judgment, but I knew I had to know myself and what I needed for my life. And Jeff is my soulmate, and I couldn't be more grateful.
Aww.
It doesn't get better than
that. Well, that's the thing. Some people say they think there's a lot of conventional wisdom out there and a lot of bad information with people who have these resumes that kind of put people in a box. Or if you're divorced, you can only have certain kind of a person, and checklists, when at the end of the day, to thyself be true. If you know how you want to feel in a relationship, and you're separate from your parents and your childhood and your divorce, because often we do, when we're unconscious, we repeat the same pattern. We think we're getting rid of the problem because we got divorced, but like Jeff said, he had to know himself. And so once you know yourself and you're clear about your vision, you can stand in that and say, yes, this is how I want to feel. Yes, we're great partners. Yeah, this is what we're up to. And then when you're doing that, marriage is not hard work. It's like a labor of love. It's like you love that person, right? You have empathy for them. Because so often we see people are unconsciously in this kind of grind attracting people who are like a mirror to their fears instead of their possibility. So it's beautiful. You went through that process. And one of your biggest fears at the time, you have 5 kids. So what do you want people to know about? It's Mother's Day on Sunday. So what? You have 5 kids, right? Other people have a disability, or some people have this, or whatever it is. What do you want people to know about having children and finding your soulmate?
I think that, there's different seasons of life and stages and phases, and I'm committed to my children, but I'm also committed to living life in the best way that I know how. And if I'm happy and I'm creating this life, I think that's the best thing I could really do for my kids.
It is.
I think that, it has to be a team effort with the kids, and there's going to be resistance, and I needed to get support. I had times when like my kids were literally all like yelling at me, and it was rough, and I cried and I questioned myself, and I shared it all with Jeff, and the more I shared with him and the more that he was there to hear me and that we could work through it together, like the stronger we became. And that also was a really good indication if this relationship could work, about how realistic we were about what it meant to be together, and not let the children define our relationship. Let us define our relationship and our environment, and the kids are going to fall where they will. And this can happen with adult children. Adult children can step in and ruin and parents, because of their guilt or whatever, can allow that to ruin a potential relationship. But I always felt very strong that Jeff has my back, and if he has my back, the kids can shout and scream, but we've got each other, and they're going to grow up and they're going to launch. And we actually really have a lot of really nice times together with that. It's not, and
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's ideal or simple, but I think we have to work on let going of guilt and let going of how we think our kids' lives should be, and know that we have to live our life the best way we can, and hopefully that will rub off on them.
Totally. Living by example, showing them what a healthy, nurturing, growing relationship based on love and commitment and teamwork. I think that's the best thing, because it meets marry. What we're doing really, in my mind, is we're breaking through generational patterns, right? Because parents do the best they can. And a lot of us struggle because of the relationship our parents had, and then we doubt ourselves, and then we repeat the pattern. And at the end of the day, when you're loved and you're nurtured, breathe, right? When you're getting your needs met, that's the most beautiful thing, because in my mind, we really do marry ultimately to heal those childhood wounds. And when you're filled up with love and support and connection, leading by example is the best thing that you could do for them. And I'm sure they see it and they'll appreciate it, right?
Yes.
Definitely. And Malka, last thing, it's almost Mother's Day, and you're newly married and your soulmates. It's so clear. It's so obvious. It's beautiful. What do you want people to know about getting support? Like this whole idea it'll happen when it happens, versus, deciding you need some help versus waiting.
I think it's like a lot of things in life, is that you need accountability. You need, like if you want, I always hate when people use this example, but I'm going to say it. It's like, if you want to get in shape, like sometimes you have to show up to a class, because if you just say, oh, I'm going to get on my bike tomorrow, it probably won't happen.
Right.
I think we all need support and accountability. And sometimes accountability, I love what you said about being coachable, that sometimes being in that sort of having a coach or having someone, they're not going to tell you what you want. They're not going to say, oh, I have a guy for you, or I have a lady for you. That's not what it's about. It's about letting, and that's the first part of being in a relationship, is being in a relationship with you, or being in a relationship with the person who, to know that they have your back, they're authentic, that they're going to be there for you. You'll make your own mistakes and they're still going to be there for you, but but that accountability, I think, is really important. And I found you to be a unique gem in this entire crazy world of dating. There aren't too many, and I think that having accountability of someone who's really there for you is really, really crucial and important. And I hope that, people can find that and use your skills and your support and what you have to offer to get what they want.
Thank you, Malka. That's amazing. I too, I struggled for so many years, 15 years on and off dating narcissists. No matter what I did, I discovered that being self-aware was not a plan. It was like this piece and analyzing this and doing that. But when it really came together into the right steps in the right order, it made all the difference in the world. And then I stopped recreating the past. And instead I stood like you in my own clarity and my own greatness to really meet my soulmate. And Mike and I are married 15 years now.
Awesome.
And thank God, Baruch Hashem, is that because you're a team, you see the world the same way. You share the same worldview and goals. And no matter what, this man has my back. No matter what. To have someone who believes in you and sees you, and it just gets better and better over time even, right? Because then you have all these memories, right? And that's what I see in you too, that you're just so perfect for each other as a team. And Malka, you did what you had to do to make it happen. You didn't hang back. You didn't make excuses. You did the work. You stumbled. You took a few steps backwards. Then you soared, and you hung in there. And ultimately, that's what makes it happen. And then when you met Jeff, you could recognize him. You felt it, right?
Yes. Yeah. I just said, and it meant being really honest. I just I'm not letting go of him, and not in a way meaning that every step it was, I just valued him, and it just got better and better. When I look back, I think our experience, it was it just flowed. It just flowed. We did have a crazy experience. We were in Colorado, and it was rough because of my family and everything like that. But it was it just flowed.
Right. And what do we learn in the program? When it's right, it flows. How do you know it flow? Right? And then it doesn't matter, because our families don't change. Our family of origin, right? They don't change. The dating sites don't change. The matchmakers are still doing their thing. She's a redhead. He's a redhead. Let's put them together. Right? But you shifted and you knew. So nothing can get in the way of that when you have that knowing and you're a team. And then you could actually be with people wherever they are, whether they're dysfunctional or critical or whatever. You shift and you show up. And you got what you wanted. Beautiful.
Yay.
Oh my God. And Jeff, is there anything that I don't know, that you want to share about life now versus life before?
Nothing specifically comes to mind about that directly, but I just wanted to follow up with Malka talking about the flow. The more honest you were and the more vulnerable you was, the easier it was to fall in love with her, because I felt you being authentic and genuine increased my trust in our relationship. And plus what you shared was just completely, enticing is the wrong word, but easy to fall in love with and to care for.
I love it. I love it. That's what the husbands always say, because we learn in the program to share our vision, to be ourselves, to be vulnerable, to be clear. And the right person is going to lean into that. Conventional wisdom is like, oh, don't share what you want so soon, you'll scare him off, or don't do this, or these rules about texting, or don't look at a picture. You got to be attracted. You got to be connected. You got to feel that connection. You got to lean in. And when it's right, it flows and you can transcend anything. Leaning into kids, right?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. We're talking about like being vulnerable. So Jeff always, like, our first date, we met at like a Ben and Jerry's, and he always talks about, he's like, and you pulled up and like, I didn't know what to do, like you blew, like, and so I got out of the car, and he said, oh, like, and he said, like, well, he says it better, but he's like, I was like trying to figure out, like, what do I do? Like, what do I say? And he's like, cars. Okay, I know cars. Let me talk about cars. So he says, so I get out of the car, and he's like, oh, RAV4, nice, nice car. What happened to your front license plate? Because my license plate was off. And I said, well, I had some body work done, and I put the license plate back on. And he said, well, you want me to put it back on? And I could have said to him, no, it's fine. I don't need, I'm so capable, or how inappropriate. And I'm like, and I thought for a second, I'm like, Malka, just let him. So I said, okay. And I took out the license plate.
And I found my Phillips screwdriver that I keep in the car. And the first thing we did was I put the front license plate on, and it just set the tone for just a very loving, giving relationship that I'm so grateful that Malka didn't resort back to this appropriate thing to not accept help. And it's just been great.
I love it. That's so beautiful. And that it's so telling, like how a first date is just being yourself, being free. I find my husband was the same way. Everything flowed. I just felt like I knew him. It was like, he was so warm. And the way he walked me to my car. And you know what? That's how it is now.
Yes.
Right?
It was good that he walked you. It was good that he walked you to your car, I think. But what do I know?
Right. The whole thing. So beautiful. So I want to thank you both. You're just amazing. Just lovely and so generous. And thank you so much. And Mike and I, we wish you and all of us, everyone at Meets Married, like just a lifetime of joy and nachas from each other and your children, and to continue growing and comforting each other. You really are an inspiration. And a lot of people in the Jewish world, the frum world, are going to see this. And we see it, we get it, and we're so happy for you. And you will inspire so many others who will see this to know what's possible. Healthy, nourishing, teamwork, growing love. And so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bari. Thank you for everything.
Yes.
Awesome.